Hi, and welcome back to day 2 of the Women's Empowerment Symposium. We are here and ready to kick it off after an incredible day 1. Today is all about leadership. Again, I would like to thank our amazing donors. Thank you, Mark Schuster and family, Carolyn Miller, the Fitzberg Foundation, Dan and Sarah Rothenberg, the Confidence Foundation, the Larry and Helen Hogue Foundation, Becky Young and Jane Parker, the Christina Mauser Foundation, the Canning Foundation, John and Bonnie DeWitt, and Andy Newman. Thank you all for your incredible support. You know we love our 5-minute wellness breaks each day and hope you enjoyed getting up and stretching with some yoga yesterday. Today, we will be getting the blood flowing with boot camp with Michelle Cannon. Again, be sure to use our live chat today, as many of our panelists will be joining us and will be able to answer your questions live. Be sure to tag us at Rose Bowl Institute on social media and use hashtag WES 2022 throughout the day, and you could find yourself up on our streams. And finally, we ask that you complete a brief survey at the end of the day. By completing this survey, you will then become eligible for one of our $2,500 scholarships. Thank you so much for participating with us today. Let's get things started with our welcome keynote, Rose Bowl Legacy Foundation board member, Dr. Betty Uribe.
Thank you so much, Lauren. Good morning, everybody. We're so excited for day 2. Yesterday, you had an amazing day, and today you have some amazing people that are going to be talking to you. It's really hard to believe that just 4 years ago, we started with 99 people, and today we're expecting well over 1,000 people, and we're so excited to be here. And I want you to think for a moment about the time in your life that you had something that you needed to accomplish and you thought there's no possible way that you can possibly do it. And somehow you mustered the energy, you mustered what it is that you needed to do to get through it and to get to the other side and to actually make it happen. A lot of the people that you're going to be hearing from today have done firsts. They have been the first at doing something. And I just want you to think about the concept of no boundaries. Many times in my life, I've been asked, what is it that has ever held you back from getting to do something? And I always point to here, the one thing that has held me back has been my own mind. So I'd like you to really think about expanding your mind today and pay really close attention to the people that are going to be speaking to you about how they have expanded their mind in order to accomplish the impossible, in order to accomplish something that hasn't been done before, in order to get to where they need to get. Now, I'd like you to think about what it's like to be a woman in leadership. Women, we are the caretakers. We take care of our children. We take care of each other. We take care of our siblings. Those of us who are mothers, we take care of our whole families. And so because we are such caretakers, and this is a natural thing that we are just caretakers by nature. So who takes care of us? And the whole concept of wellness, the whole concept of taking care of ourselves first, it's almost like putting our mask on first. You know, this morning I posted on LinkedIn because I really didn't want to go to the gym. It was 5 a.m. My appointment was at 5 a.m. with my trainer, and I really didn't want to go. But I went back and I took a picture right after I finished my training, and I thought, I am so happy that I did this. A lot of times wellness happens that way. We don't really want to do it. We don't want to take care of ourselves because we're so used to taking care of others. And yet we really need to nurture ourselves. Getting up early in the morning, meditating, praying, whatever it is that you do, getting a gratitude journal, exercising, eating healthy, drinking lots of fluids, taking care of ourselves, taking 5 minutes. One of the things I do is take 5 minutes in between meetings, even if it's just 5 minutes to exhale and to think. It's so important to take really good care of ourselves. But today is all about you. I'm so excited to introduce you to the people that are coming. Congratulations to each and every one of you for being here. The only thing that I ask you to do is be present. Take a piece of paper and get ready to write because you're going to have so much so much wisdom, so much goodness, so much wellness, so much taking care of yourselves that you will want to share it with other people. So take it in and then give it away. Pay it forward, because when we give things away, we live a life of abundance. So with that, Jamie, take it away.
Thank you, Dr. Betty, once again for getting us started today. We always love to hear from you and the Rose Bowl Legacy Foundation. So good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to day 2 of the 4th annual Women's Empowerment Symposium. We had a wonderful first day. We're excited for today, day 2, leadership. So it's another day worth sticking around for in front of your screens. Our 2 panels for day 2 are my favorite: women in the business of sport and navigating mental health. So 2 very important and very different areas, but we have some amazing speakers coming your way throughout the day. And we're going to end day 2 with a very special one-on-one, once again, with Miss Valerie Condos Field and Katelyn Ohashi live from the Rose Bowl Stadium field. So as we did yesterday, we look forward to getting your feedback in the chat sessions of each panel and also after the event each day. It's our goal to empower and to inspire you all. With all of that, let's get started with our first panel today, Women in the Business of Sport. And we need to be more intentional about creating and supporting women leaders in all aspects of sports, from professionals in the front office and on the field to collegiate. Across the sports industry, women are continuing to be underrepresented. However, we are starting to see a bit of a shift. So it's thanks to these strong leaders who continue to change the idea of what it looks like to lead and what it takes to implement that change. So we have a wonderful group of women today discussing where each of their paths took them, discovering their respective passions within the sports industry, their experiences that shaped their careers, and also some of their mentors that helped lead the way for them. All right, let's get started and introduce Julie Ehrman, who is the co-founder and president of Angel City Football Club. Julie founded ACFC with Academy Award-winning actress and activist Natalie Portman, technology venture capitalist Kara Nortman, and 7/6 founder and Reddit co-founder Alexis Ohanian. ACFC is one of the only majority female-founded and run professional sports teams in the world, and in 2021 was named one of the world's most innovative companies by Fast Company magazine. In addition to leading ACFC day-to-day, Ehrman is active in the Los Angeles sports and technology communities. She's a board member of the LA Sports and Entertainment Council, the Rose Bowl Institute, and the LA Sports Council, and also an active executive in the LA chapter of WISE, which is Women in Sports and Events. She's also part of 2 SPACs focused on sports and gaming and entertainment, and also a member of the DraftKings All-Star Network as an advisor to Drive by DraftKings. Julie's accolades include being named a member of Adweek's 2021 and 2020 Most Powerful Women in Sports, one of the 100 Most Creative People in Business by Fast Company, and on the Creative 50 list by Advertising Age. Let's welcome Julie Ehrman. All right, next I want to introduce Vicki Chun. Vicki was appointed the Thomas A. Beckett Director of Athletics at Yale University in early 2018. A true trailblazer in collegiate sports, Vicki is the first woman and first Asian American to serve in this role at Yale University, with oversight of 35 varsity teams, over 50 club and intramural sports, as well as the portfolio of athletic facilities enjoyed by the Yale community. She's recognized by Street and Smith's Sports Business Journal as a, quote, game changer. Vicki has a stellar reputation as one of the most innovative and widely respected leaders in NCAA Division I. In March 2018, she was selected as the National Association of Collegiate Directors of Athletics Under Armour Athletics Director of the Year, where she was celebrated for raising the bar as a thought leader and decision maker in college athletics. Vicki has also served as one of 40 members of the NCAA Division I Council, where she was vice chair of the NCAA Division I Football Oversight Committee, as well as part of the D1 Football Competition Committee. She was a longtime board member and past president of Women Leaders in College Sports, the dominant leadership organization working to advance more women in collegiate athletics. And in 2010, she was honored as the National Administrator of the Year by the organization. So, Vicki, fabulous to have you here. Thank you for joining us. Also want to introduce Martha Saucedo, who's currently the Chief External Affairs Officer for AEG. She's a highly experienced public affairs and government relations professional with experience in both the public and private sectors, developing and implementing political, communications, and community engagement strategies. She joined AEG in 2001, and she's responsible for leading AEG's external affairs team, which is the primary contact for all issues that relate to public and community affairs, charitable involvement, corporate communications, and issues that involve public interest in the organization's outreach and development programs. Martha is responsible for developing the organization's priorities with respect to local communities and public affairs. In addition, she oversees AEG's philanthropic initiatives, as well as the charitable foundations established to provide funding to nonprofit organizations that work to improve educational and recreational opportunities for children. So Martha's responsible for implementing the landmark LA Live Community Benefits Agreement, including over $6 million in funding for affordable housing and $1 million in funding for parks and recreation developments. In addition, she's been responsible for development and implementation of community engagement strategies around large private and public developments, such as the StubHub Center on the campus of Cal State University, Dominguez Hills. She manages company-wide philanthropic initiatives, such as AEG's Season of Giving, and serves as co-chair of AEG's Women's Leadership Council. Let's get a round of applause for Martha. Thank you for being here. We'll dive into our questions now, and I'll start this one with Julie. What is the biggest challenge that you face in your position at the moment? How do you find yourself learning and growing from those experiences each day?
Yeah, it's a great question. Look, I think women's sports has no ceiling, and women's football has an incredible opportunity to not only inspire, but to lead the path for all women's sports to show what's possible. I mean, here at Angel City, we feel like we're doing it on the biggest stage. We've sold out 4 games this year, an average attendance of more than 19,000, and we're doing it unapologetically, telling our story as we go. What makes Angel City different from the beginning, though, was that we built an organization where mission and capital could coexist. We wanted to lead with passion and purpose, ultimately to drive to profitability, because we wanted to tell the story differently, that you didn't just have to do good and therefore not have a business sense, that you could actually do good and it would have a positive returns on your business. And you could prove that investing in women is good business and therefore support a sport that, should grow and needs to grow. And when it is invested in, actually already, provides incredible dividends. To your question specifically, in building this organization where we lead with purpose, we have to live our values every single day. And that can be hard. We have to react to what's happening in the world. We have to react to what's happening on our team. We have to react when things go against what we believe and what we care about. And understanding how to use our platform for good is a challenge and takes time. Our ultimate goal is to strive to equity, and we believe that we can use sports to bend that curve because people pay attention to sports, people invest in sports, and they go to sports. But we think we have the opportunity to use our platform in a bigger way, and that means leading with our values and sometimes challenging something that people may, recommend that we stay quiet on, or potentially challenge things that not our entire community supports us with. And it's those things that make us stronger. And working with our community and how do we communicate and how do we, try to affect change is something that, we work on every day.
All right, let's go to Vicki next for that question. Let me know if you need me to repeat.
Sure. No, it's a wonderful question. And first of all, I am just a fangirl of both Martha and Julie. And when Angel City, when the announcement came, I literally jumped out of my seat. I've always felt that women's sports and making money can coexist, and where it's really awesome to see it from a fan standpoint, and from a collegiate standpoint, we're getting there too. And to see the amount of just people in the seats watching our women's team, it has, I've been in this for a long time, and to see it grow and to see the engagement, and also seeing our all of our student athletes, but, uniquely are women who are using that platform for good. I think student athletes are realizing the power they have, especially through social media. And, the challenges are just collegiate, college sports in general. As you can see, the NCAA is going through changes, the NIL giving student athletes an opportunity commercially. And it's just trying to manage all of this freedom, plus the fact that they have to, do very well academically as well, athletically. And I do worry about time that they don't have. And really right now we're focused on mental wellness. And I've heard our student athletes loud and clear, and you can hear the students in general, like on the campus. And they are a very active group, which I love. And so there are many challenges for all of us. And it's something that we will continue to support and listen. I think that's the best thing that we can do.
Martha?
Thank you. And for me, it's also an honor to be here with Vicki and Julie. I've been in the private sector now for over 20 years. And I think it still is frustrating to see the lack of female representation in the C-suite level, executive levels. So for me, that's really been a priority. It's partly why I co-founded the Women's Leadership Group here at AEG, so that we could have direct dialogue with our CEO and our executive officers on what we can do to improve the environment to ensure that we had a strong pipeline of females moving into those executive level roles. And, I think that is both a challenge and an opportunity. And, on the opportunity side, part of what I try to do is encourage women to think about not just being subject matter experts, but really broadening their knowledge and expertise and learning how the entire business operates as an enterprise and where they can help them to move the needle, because that is what CEOs are looking for when they're looking for candidates for that C-suite. And women oftentimes don't perceive themselves necessarily for a variety of reasons, some of which are related to motherhood and responsibilities outside of the office. And so, but what I say is, it's really important for us to be represented in that C-suite, because then that gives you the ability to help shape those policies that create an environment that allows you to retain females at senior levels. I also, at a later point in my career, went back and got my MBA from Anderson School of Business. I had done really well as, a subject matter expert in these areas, but I really felt like I had to deepen my knowledge of the capital markets and the finance aspects of our business. And I think that really also propels women to a totally different level. I think oftentimes we're discouraged from pursuing that component. In my business school class, we were, I think, roughly 40%. So we were not even half. And so that's still, I think, a little bit of a barrier. But from a learning and growing, I think it's continuing to sort of educate yourself on the business as an entire enterprise, and also making your ambitions heard, really communicating that you want to do more than potentially where you're at. I know for me, just even letting our leadership know that I was going back to get my MBA, I think it changed, they already saw me as a high contributor, but my place in the business, my future in the business, they looked at my contributions differently, at the potential that I had differently, and it allowed me to get space in other areas that weren't under my core competencies. So I could learn and grow and, again, help build the business. So that's the one thing I would encourage everyone to think about, how you're developing yourself.
That's a great point. And it's never too late to take that step to further your education and give you those credentials to take it to the next level. Vicki, let's start with you on this one. What do you think are the most critical changes that we have to make in order to face the future effectively? And how can we all support one another in not just our successes, which is easier, but also in our failures?
Oh, wow. That's a wonderful question. And, it's something where I think support around failures is actually more important than successes. We all didn't get here without a lot of success, but we also didn't get here without quite a few failures. And the support that I will always remember those who have supported me through hard times, because that gets you through things. It gets you through the hurricane, the storm, and you learn, there's all kinds of books on this and studies of how much more we learn through failures or through, you would say, non-successes. And we learn every time, but the support that I didn't realize that I needed to get through those was, it's so important. So whenever there's a, I guess, non-success I see, I am the first to reach out because it was done for me. And it's so important. Being a female leader, you are a bit exposed, and there are all kinds of expectations on us. And we are representing, more than just our title. We are representing a whole gender. In my case, the AAPI community. And it's, it's a bit daunting, but at the same time, it's so rewarding when especially women support each other. I really, truly believe it. And, I learned that from women leaders in college sports. We gather in October, which is the craziest time of year, and we're usually going in tired. And then we leave just unbelievably energized. And I always appreciate that.
I love that. Julie, let's hear from you on this.
Yeah, and I'm glad Vicki went first. It gave me time to think. I love the non-successes, though. That's a great way to sort of rephrase, what is it now, which was called failures. Now I'm going to call it non-successes. For me, it is like, look, I'm obviously older. I'm not getting any like 30 under 30 awards. So for me, it's about it's like not only climbing, but it's like when you get to where you want to be, it's holding the door open, right? So it's not just going through it, but then it's holding it open and pulling others through, right? I say a lot that I don't really see a lot of mentorship. Like mentorship doesn't really happen in business per se. Like you see it in other professions, the legal profession, the medical profession, sort of built into how you grow, but you don't really see it in business. And a lot of times you move from manager, director to VP, and you never get the skill set of what it's actually like to manage, employees. But that's what happens when you grow. You just get a different title and hopefully, more money and more responsibility. And so for me, I think the focus is, once you have that once you, get the opportunity and or push your way through that door, it's holding it open and pulling others through. And counseling them, advising, coaching, be a sounding board. Everyone's path is different. And if you're in the right organization, in the right culture, it's a diverse one where everyone's viewpoints are heard and can make a difference, right? So finding the way to build that confidence and that strength to assert yourself and to showcase what you know is important and to be able to help and bring others along is something that I think a lot about. And as I want to support other women in the organization, mine's a little bit easier since we have to look hard to find someone who's not a woman, which we're working on. But it's how do you do that? How do you actively and consciously do that?
Yeah. Martha, I know it's going to be hard to add on to that because Vicki and Julie had so many great points there, but I'll come to you now with the question of how do we support each other, not just in successes, but non-successes.
Yeah, I'll just add on to what both Vicki and Julie said, because I agree wholeheartedly with it. And I think it's once you open the door and you hold it open, it's really having honest conversations with each other. And I think sometimes, we're not inclined to put ourselves in that vulnerable space where we're exposing ourselves because it's uncomfortable. Mm-hmm. But really, that is what will help us achieve more as a group. And I'll tell you, personally that, again, I work in the corporate sector. The stats are, this industry is still very male dominated. And so when you are maybe the lone C-suite person, it can be extraordinarily challenging. In my case, I'm also Latina, because there is a sense of feeling alone. You are the sole voice potentially on family leave policies or whatever it may be. And I think having that network of individuals to support you as you're having potentially tough conversations throughout your journey is critically important, because, it can get a little exhausting, because there are days where you just want to go and do your job. But in addition to doing your job, you bear the responsibility of representing your gender and helping to advance them in a significant way in an environment that doesn't represent them. And so I think that network of people really communicating with each other in an honest and vulnerable way is the only way that we're going to continue to make significant strides.
You're also very accomplished in your respective fields. So I want to ask you, how did you get to where you are? Who helped you? And what advice would you have for the people that are watching it that may want to follow in a similar path as yours? And let's start with Julie on this one.
Oh, I would not follow my path. It's schizophrenic. But it's funny the perspective you have when you get older, right? Like my first perspective was I was always in such a rush. I was in such a rush to work. I was in such a rush to get the job. I was such a rush to learn and grow. And what I realized now is that your careers are really long. You're going to be doing it. You'll be working for 30, 40 years. I mean, careers are long, and like you can take your time at the beginning to figure out like what your passion is and where you want to do and pay your dues, because careers are long. I also believe that you're not going to stay in the same industry forever. I love gaming. I worked in gaming. I love media. I worked at Lionsgate. I love new technology. I started my own company. And then, I love sports, and now I'm running Angel City Football Club. And I think that's actually really important, because I've taken different experiences and different learnings from each one of those, industries into Angel City Football Club. In fact, I think if I was purely a sports executive for the last, 20 years of my career, Angel City wouldn't be as successful as it is, because I'd put, limitations on myself, or, it's never been done this way, or we tried that and it didn't work, or you don't do it this way, and that just prevents you from doing something. So I do think having varied experiences is actually really important. My career also, I consider myself an entrepreneur. I like building things. People say that I walk through walls. People say I have an incredibly thick skin. People say I let things go. But I just don't take no for an answer. I think that's been one of my sort of claims to success. And not that no wasn't the right answer. It just meant that I was not successful in conveying my passion or my commitment to what I was doing. And it challenged me to think differently. It challenged me to understand that everybody's different. And getting a no, first of all, it's a lot easier to say no than it is to say yes. Anytime you say yes, you're taking a risk, right? It could be a professional risk. It could be, it could be a personal risk, but it's a risk. It's a lot easier to say no. So it taught me how to think about my audience and what would get them to a yes. And it also challenged me that, maybe I wasn't always perfect in my delivery or my presentation, that I always had to grow and improve. But being in different industries taught me how to approach things differently. And then I would say the one thing that's consistent in my career, other than sort of looking at everything from an entrepreneurial landscape and looking at what's possible and always saying, why not? Like, why can't we do this? For me, it's just not, I just don't stop, and I find something I'm passionate about and I love, and I try to make a difference. And I think that's why I've probably seen the most success in my career ever with Angel Cities, because it's not just about driving revenue, and it's not just about returning for our shareholders. There's a real make a difference and change the world mentality, combined with my desire to have, positive returns for my owners and for my community, that has made this so much different. So if you can find a way to instill purpose in what you do, I've seen like the results are just different, and you feel better, and you're excited to wake up in the morning to go to work. And you're excited to bring people in to work with you.
It's a great way to approach the day when you're excited about it and ready to get people involved. Martha, let's hear from you next on that.
I just want to amplify Julie's message about diversity of experiences, because I started my career in politics. I did not start out in sports. I went to work for a Fortune 500 company. And when I joined AEG, we were a startup. And I think my previous experiences allowed me to really start at an entry-level position and grow with the company. Not everyone was able to do that. You have to be sort of flexible in your approach. I'm a big believer in lifelong learning. And, I try to do that really every day, not just in a formal sense. So oftentimes I'll get asked the question, have you had a mentor? Honestly, I've never had a formal mentor in my life, but every day I feel like the interactions that I have with people, even my coworkers, executives here, there's always something that you can learn from them. People in different departments that don't do what you do, there's something that you can learn from them. And for you to very intentionally sort of try to do that throughout your career, I think will give you a ton of benefit. I think your networks are very important. And I think that networks have to be, again, diverse in terms of people younger than you, people older than you, people in different industries. And again, because all of that sort of wisdom and knowledge will ultimately benefit you to have a diversity of thought and experience. Like your voice will be way more valuable than someone else that's just been in one industry, just been in one particular part of that industry. And I always encourage people, to be willing to take risks. I think women in particular sometimes are a little more reluctant. I know that I come from a Latino family. So you are always, because my family sort of immigrated here, the wisdom was go into a profession that's safe, something that we know, go into medicine, go into law. There is so much out there where women can make an impact and where we're underrepresented: technology, financial services, and financial services in terms of public equity, venture capital. Learn about these things. I mean, there are so many opportunities and they're exciting and they need our voices. So probably that's the one thing that I would encourage women to do.
I want to follow up on that real quick before we get to Vicki on this topic, but learning, right? It's so important. What are the keys to learning? Asking questions, listening, observing. What would be your advice to this group on how to learn and soak up the knowledge when they get the opportunity to?
I think everyone has an opportunity every day they go to work to learn. So it is not about someone all of a sudden making an appointment and you're invited to a meeting. It's also you creating those opportunities for yourself, right? And so if you have an interest, I had our CFO speak to a women's group at AEG, and he said, I encourage everyone in this room to schedule some time to have coffee with me or lunch to learn about our finances. And he said, I make that offer pretty frequently, and probably one person in the history of me making that offer has taken me up on it. And so, your colleagues are a wealth of resource. I have pinged people on LinkedIn. I mean, we live in an amazing age of technology where, frankly, connecting is much easier than it was in the past. I was recently appointed to the UCLA Foundation, which oversees a $5.1 billion endowment. That happened as a result of my networks. And so whether you're sort of at the younger end of your career path or at the older portion of it, those networks are really important. And that's where you will learn through those relationships. And those relationships will result in experiences and opportunities for you. So that would be my advice.
Love that. Vicki, I'm going to change up the topic just so we can conclude some other topics here. What are some common misconceptions that people have? How do we combat those and communicate more effectively?
Great question. And first of all, there is no doubt why, I'm listening to Julie, I'm listening to you, I'm listening to Martha, why you all are where you are. Like, it's just a ton of energy and passion. And I encourage that to whoever's watching, is that no matter what background you have, if you have passion and energy for it, there's no doubt that you will be sitting where we are now. One of the things that is always, in particular in collegiate athletics, but I also think in corporations and professional teams, as a woman, one of my jobs as an AD is to oversee football. And I had so many people, the other American football. Sorry, Julie. So, they would always ask, were you a player? Were you a coach? And, I wasn't, but neither were some of my male peers. And so, but those are questions that I get a lot. For me, success is success. And, Julie, you would be you remind me of any one of our coaches who do not take no for an answer. It's something that I think as women and maybe as a person of color that we all experience, in which people expect you to have these experience in everything. And what I've related to is leadership, competition is competition. I sort of went through this role where I am now, old school. I started coaching, and I coached volleyball. Very different from football, and our season was the same time as football. So when I went to administration, I had to run a football game at my alma mater, and I was like, whoa. And so what did I do? I go through mentorship. I went to other leaders, male or female, to see what do I need to know to make this a success. And I know Martha and Julie and you, Jamie, have done that. We can't go at this alone. It's impossible. But I love the diverse and experience, because starting somewhere, that's the best part. You're starting somewhere. You're starting. A lot of folks wait for that big job or, get into the field, see if you like it. And if you're passionate about it, you will find something. You'll learn every single day. Yes, there are obstacles being a woman, and I still experience that. There are more athletic directors, female athletic directors, but at the same time, we're more as hired. Many retire or are fired, so the number seems to be inching up, not as fast as I would one day. Hopefully, they won't announce me as a first of something, but we're here and we just keep moving forward and doing what we do.
I love that. I still want to cover a few different topics. I want to ask, I don't want to dive too much into the, the gender-based issues that you've encountered over the course of your career. I know that we all have, especially being in the business of sports specifically. But let's talk about, on the positive side of that, the changes that you've seen regarding women in the business of sports since you started your day one. So Martha, let's go to you first on that one.
The good news is that representation is changing in a positive way. And you have individuals like Julie who are making some major structural changes. And I think that that's where really we're going to be able to shift the landscape, is if we have more women at senior level positions in all aspects of the industry. And there's some areas where it matters almost a little bit more, I would say. So for example, on the sponsorship side, the people that control the marketing dollars for the brands, those are very influential individuals because they control purse strings. So in areas, where we can help control dollars, we will be able to make more of an impact. So the good news is I think that landscape has started to change. I see it in my own company. And that's positive, but we have to keep building on that momentum.
Julie?
Well, first, I didn't think there were women in sports when I started my career a couple of decades ago. So I think what's critical is representation, right? Being able to see it, having panels like this, seeing people like Vicki and Martha and yourself talking about it. Three of us have incredibly different careers in sports, and yet we're all sort of at the the head of the table, so to speak, in our respective areas. So I think representation is really important. The other thing as relates to women's sports is exposure, right? So we've been told for a long time that only 4% of all sports media coverage is about women's sports. And we've seen that change, right? Just Women's Sports coming on the scene, The Gist, Together. These are organizations that are focused predominantly on women's sports, led by women, making themselves known and their organizations known. And so I think being able to support that is also really important. Getting involved in organizations like WISE, where you can be surrounded by other women, to know that these opportunities exist is incredibly important. And I think we're really lucky with LinkedIn and social media, where we can have these conversations, where you can find these organizations. So I think that's changed fairly drastically. And that's, why I love doing panels like this, is so that there is that concept of representation. And if you can see it, you can be it. I'm inspired just on this call by Vicki and Martha. And so hope that I can play a role as well. It's not hard to get here. You just have to want to, right? And know it's possible. And what we're showing is that it's possible. So now you just have to want to.
Vicki?
And, to piggyback on that, there seems to be more women like Julie and Martha who are in the seat making decisions and showing support and having actually, passion about female leadership. And, I'm the athletic director, but I had a great conversation with Clara Tsai, who is part owner of the Nets and the WNBA team, the Liberty. And she called me and wanted to talk about women's sports and how we can make a change. Now, people like this, they can make huge changes commercially. And it's really been exciting to see. I really wasn't sure if I was going to live to see it. But when I went to a ton of WNBA games, and to see it just almost sell out, it's crazy to see the success of Angel City, where all my friends in LA are season ticket holders. When they announced it, that was the only time I wished I was really rich, because I wanted to get in on it. I was like, man, this is awesome. So
never too late. And never too late. You never know.
I'll ask for a huge raise.
There you go.
And then positive change is happening, where it's cool women supporting other women. When I was the first woman, even at my alma mater, I got a lot of, fist bumps and stuff like that, but not as much as I thought I was going to get. And then when they announced me at Yale, man, I had everyone reaching out to me and in the restaurants and just like, go girl. And I'm like, wow, I didn't expect that. And so I'm seeing just women coming together and supporting each other, which is, I think, incredible.
Absolutely. And having the three of you on this call, I'm certainly feeling inspired and also encouraged. You talk about just the fact that you're sitting here and you're giving your time to share your knowledge and your expertise and your journey with this younger generation that is interested in this field and going to move into that. That's already doing what you can to sort of open doors and shatter ceilings and show that these jobs exist and these roads exist for women in this industry. In terms of within your own office environment now, what are you doing to impact the culture for the others there? Martha, we'll start with you.
I mentioned briefly that we started a Women's Leadership Council, and we looked at key areas that we felt could make a material difference in terms of advancement for women at the company. So it resulted in us revamping our family leave policy, which, by the way, had a positive impact also on creating paternity leave benefits and some other things for people that were not women. We developed a leadership program in conjunction with Korn Ferry to try to accelerate the leadership journey for women within the organization, high performers. And we also did a pay equity study to ensure that there was equity with regard to the pay component. So those are 3 ways that, we're trying to impact the culture here. I talk a lot to all of our team members about their personal development and to try to ensure that there's, longevity and success in their careers. And I think that outside of this, my day-to-day job, I also try to talk a lot to other groups of women, underrepresented groups, minority groups. I want women to have a vision for themselves that is bigger than sometimes the vision we've had for ourselves, which means in the world of sports, you should be in the C-suite. You should be a team owner. And so what is it going to take for you to get to that point? And if you start thinking about it earlier in your career, that trajectory absolutely exists for you. And so those are some of the things that we've been doing.
Fantastic. Vicki, how about you?
This always goes through my head whenever I have to make a decision. And it is like equity, representation, and retention. And that's something that if we build a new facility, if we're looking at our budget, if we're looking at experiences, those go through my head. And that all has to do because of who I am. And when doing that, does tend to lend to some difficult decisions, but thankfully, I'm really supportive. So if I go at that angle, it's instead of getting pushback, which may have been done in the past, just through generations, it's now embraced. Like that is a true reason of why we need to support something. And it's something that everyone seems to get, especially in higher education. And, it's along that lines is professional development. We have to offer that, whether internally or externally, so that, it's great that they're doing a phenomenal job, but let's share those ideas. Let's expand our network. I'm totally getting all of your information. So when I go home to LA, I'm going to be like, hey, Julie, hey.
We'll just make sure it's on a game day weekend.
Yes, absolutely. And so, it's something that I know it's part of my vision. And then we have to say it as women leaders. We need to say what our vision is and what is that a part of. And then we have to back it up. And that's the great reason about the areas we're in. If we don't back it up, no one's going to listen to us. And so that's something that we'll continue to do.
Julie, why don't you wrap this up for us?
Yeah, I think, we sought to build Angel City differently. We're 3 female founders: Natalie Portman, the actress and activist; Karen Nortman, who's a venture capitalist; and myself. We have a majority female ownership group, and we have a majority female team, and we have an exclusively female team for a long time. Now it's just majority female, and understand the importance of having a diverse and inclusive staff so that you can bring different perspectives and different experiences to what we're building. Angel City, we wanted to be reflective of the community that we're serving, the fans that we're going to have, and want to make sure we have the voices at the table so that when we, engage with the community, partner with somebody, or bring in a sponsor, it makes sense. And so how we facilitate that in the organization, in addition to being incredibly focused about building a diverse workforce, is being transparent. It doesn't help if people have different perspectives and experiences if they don't have a forum with which to share it, or don't have an understanding of what you're trying to accomplish so they can apply that to what's happening. So, as a leader, I'm incredibly transparent. We have quarterly all hands. We're starting to do quarterly DEI town halls. We do yearly, or then this coming year, we'll do our first offsite. We did it last year with just the leadership team. Next year, we'll do it with the entire organization so that everybody is understanding like what our goals are, how, sort of Martha, to your point about your example about the finance lead, it's like, how do we make money and where does it come from? And how do we all work together? And so you understand why, I'm doing something and how it, doesn't affect your day to day, but it does affect the larger organization that you have a role in. Our organization has also grown a lot, and we're starting to think about exactly this question. We went from 1 to 13 to 30 to 85 or something. And I don't actually want to know what the real number is. But as we grow, how do we create those communication pathways and tools that give everybody a seat at the table, that give them the opportunity to learn and to grow? And I think that's one of the things that I'm most proud about with Angel City, which is just creating an environment that's communicative, collaborative, and transparent. And that goes from the top all the way into each different business unit and each different person in their role.
Thank you all for these pearls of wisdom. I'm sure that our group has enjoyed it as much as I have. Thank you guys so much for taking the time. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right. Who knew that in just 5 minutes we could stretch and reset yesterday? Today we're going to get the blood flowing with Michelle Cannon. So everybody stand on up. Come on, do it. Push everything aside. Michelle, they're all yours.
What's up, ladies? Are you ready for your 5-minute wellness break? I am your coach, Michelle Cannon. I am a personal trainer, and I'm going to take you through a 5-minute boot camp. And yes, you can do a boot camp at your desk. I'm about to prove it to you. All right, everybody, up on your feet. We're going to scoot our chairs away, and I'm actually filming this from my desk as well. So we're just going to circle the arms out nice and loose here. I'm going to move my chair out of the way. Keep going, keep going. Nice and loose, guys. Arms at your side. Release those heels, swivel those hips, getting the back nice and loose. Couple more. And then from here, let's go ahead and go into a lunge. Step that left foot back, reach up tall towards the ceiling, and then pull towards that forward leg. Come back up tall, open up the arms. We're gonna only do 2 of these. We're on a tight schedule here. This is just enough to get us stretched out and warmed up a little bit. All right, from here, let's take it into some high knee marches, driving those knees up towards your chest. There you go. Nice and high. Let's go out wide with this, opening up the hips a little bit. If you've been sitting, these are going to feel really good. And then lean forward, bring your heels towards your glutes like you're kicking up sand behind you. Keep kicking. And then from here, take it into a little bit of a bounce. Shake those arms out and landing nice and lightly on the balls of the feet for 3, 2, 1. All right, I'm going to get my trusty timer set off screen here, and we're going to start with our 5-minute workout. So what's going to look like is going to be 3 rounds, okay? We're gonna focus on lower body, upper body, and core, targeting the entire body. Every move is gonna be 30 seconds. We're gonna start off with the squat. All right, let me get that timer set. And all right, are we ready? We're gonna take that chair, we're gonna use it as a prop, our office chair, and we're gonna do a squat. Let me show you a couple. I want you to sit your butt back down so that you lightly touch your chair. 30 seconds of work, guys. Let's go into that squat in 3, 2, 1. All right, now why the chair? The chair makes sure that we put our weight in our heels and our butt is sitting back. We're targeting our glutes here. We want to make sure our knees stay behind our toes. If they go in front of our toes, our heels will lift up and we're putting a little bit too much pressure on the knees. All right, we have 10 more seconds. When we're done with this move, we're going to go right into a squat hold. That means you're going to hover your butt right above your chair. Here we go in 3, 2, 1. Hover it, guys. You don't need to touch it, but I want to make sure that that bottom is hovering right above that chair by like a centimeter. Your butt is still back. Your chest is up. You can put your hands in prayer. You're praying that this is over really quickly. Oh my goodness, I'm feeling it. Make sure your feet are evenly spaced and that you have weight in both of your feet evenly. Point your knees forward, point your toes forward. You have 5 more seconds in this squat hold and we're gonna go into little jumps. I'm gonna show you in 3, 2, 1. Just come off your feet, guys. Come up. If the jump is too much, just give me some fast squats. If it's not too much, come off the ground. You guys sit that butt back again, load it up, and then come off the ground. Just 30 seconds. This is the high intensity move. This gets our heart rate up. This burns a lot of calories and a lot of fat, even after you're done and you're sitting around. This is called high intensity interval training. That is the benefit. You've got 3, 2, 1. Okay, shake it out. Good news. We are done with all the squats. Now, we're gonna work on upper body. I still want you to use your chair. Here's what it looks like. We're gonna go into push-ups. Now for push-ups, sometimes we need to modify, right? And we go on our knees. This is actually a better way to teach you a full range of motion push-up. We're gonna do a push-up from the chair. You're gonna line your chest up with the arm of your chair or the back of your chair. And if you need to make it easier, you step taller. All right, 30 seconds of push-ups, guys. We're going in 5 seconds. Moving plank, tuck the belly button to your spine and go. Again, you wanna make it easier, you step taller. You go to a wall. Don't ever give up, you guys. Push-ups are a really tough movement, especially for women. We don't have the same upper body strength as men. I know it's not fair, but we can even that playing field by doing them, by getting strong. Keep going. You got 10 more seconds, and we're gonna go into mountain climbers. I'm gonna show you what the start. We're gonna go into a plank. In 3, 2, 1. Option, hold your arms straight. Stay up on that chair. You wanna make this a little harder, come on down to the ground. Give me a plank right off of the ground here. Up to you. You can also go down on your knees. All right, you guys. Hopefully you can still see me. Yes, I am by my chair. I'm noticing all the things I need to vacuum up on the floor here. Stay with me, stay with me. Hold this plank again, belly button to spine. On your knees or on your feet is fine. You have 5 more seconds. We're done in 3, 2, 1. Everyone up into a high plank. Again, I'm gonna find my chair. I'm gonna do this mountain climbers off of my chair. So this is what it looks like, you guys. You're gonna drive those knees into your chest. If you've got wheels on the bottom of your chair, this is obviously not gonna work. Find your way to the ground. Here we go, 30 seconds, mountain climbers. In 3, 2, 1. You're simply alternating those knees, staying in that plank position, driving the knees forward, not picking your heels up. I see that all the time. We're working the core when we drive our knees forward. Keep it going, keep it going. Hang here, guys. You got 10 more seconds, mountain climbers. Almost there. In 3, 2, 1. Nice job. All right, congratulations. Circuit 2 is done. We have another 90 seconds of work. This time we're gonna work our core. We can move your chairs completely out of the way, back to your desk. I'm just gonna push it off to the side here. And our first move is gonna be a bicycle crunch. So find your way to the floor and lay on your back. Bring those knees up, line them with your hips. Should be at a 90-degree angle. We're gonna start with our bicycle crunches. We got 30 seconds here. Here we go. 3, 2, 1. Hit it, guys. Elbows to knees. Stay nice and wide with those elbows. I don't want to see this. This does nothing. Nice and long. Push those legs out all the way. Fully extend. Concentrate on what you're doing here. Hollow out that belly, that tailbone, and that spine should be Velcro to the ground. You don't want an arch in your back. You have 9 more seconds. That's it on the bicycle crunch. And then we're going to go into what I called a suitcase hold. I'll show you. In 3, 2, 1. Let's put those elbows back in 90. Now take your palms, press them tight and strong against your thighs, and then resist your hands with your thighs. Shoulders and head are off the ground. Keep pushing, you guys. I call this a suitcase hold because, you know, sometimes when we go on vacation and we want to pack a little too many things like I do into a suitcase and we're pressing down really hard to get everything to fit, that is exactly what we're doing right now. Press hard, you guys. Oh my goodness. Again, keep that spine Velcro to your mat or the floor. Doesn't take much to make those abs burn, right? This is burning me. Hang there, guys. You have 5 more seconds. You're stopping in 3, 2, 1. Nice job. All right, final move of the day. I saved the best for last. We're gonna call these fast feet. We're gonna be up on our feet again. I want you guys in a little athletic stance here. Legs hip width apart, stay bent on the knees, and we're gonna go here like we're running on hot coals. We got our final 30 seconds coming up in 3, 2, 1. Come on, you guys. Fast feet. You don't have a lot of space. We don't need a lot of space, right? We're getting our heart rate up. We're getting sweat going. We're getting strong and healthy. You have less than 10. So hang here. Come on, you guys. We don't lead sedentary lifestyles, right? We're up, we're moving. We're accomplishing goals. We're being fit. We're done in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Oh my goodness. Nice job, everybody. I'm so proud of you. That 5 minutes was not easy. Thank you for hanging with me. Again, I'm Michelle Cannon from Michelle Cannon Fit. Hope to see you guys again next time. Have a great rest of your symposium. good work.
All right, Michelle, thank you. That feels good to just get up and get moving, get the blood flowing a little bit. Just a great way to take a little 5-minute breather, a little 5-minute break and change things up. So we're going to keep things moving with our next group of incredible female leaders as we discuss an extremely important topic on navigating mental health on and off the field. Now, all of these women are speaking out on behalf of mental health and how we can continue to do better in taking care of ourselves and also one another. So rates of anxiety and depression are high amongst female athletes and just athletes across the board in general. Now, we all know that the benefits of sport are not only for our physical health, but also our mental well-being. But for young women, sport is an activity that can teach them commitment. It can teach them how to concentrate under stress, how to relax, how to set and achieve goals, how to respect others, accept responsibility and failure, and also how to be gracious winners and also gracious losers. So research has shown that physical activity and sport enhance girls and young women's mental, psychological, and spiritual health in a number of ways. And as we learned with only 5 minutes of movement, we can reset our day and also find energy to keep us moving forward. So again, thank you guys for joining us today. It is time now to introduce this amazing and inspiring group of women. First up, let's introduce Nina Day. Hi, Nina.
Hi.
All right. Nina is an advocate for mental health treatment and awareness with a special focus on children. She and her husband, Ohio State University head football coach Ryan Day, created a fund for pediatric and adolescent mental health at Nationwide Children's Hospital, and they are key supporters of the On Our Sleeves national movement for children's mental health. The Days also recently made a gift of $1 million to establish the Nina and Ryan Day Resilience Fund in Ohio State's Department of Psychiatry and Behavioral Health. Just incredible. Nina has spoken of living with anxiety while married to someone who is also extremely a high public profile figure. All right, so next up, let's introduce Allison Schmidt. Allison is one of the most decorated American athletes of all time. Allison is a 4-time Olympian and a 10-time Olympic medalist. A veteran leader, she was named captain of the 2020 USA swimming team in Tokyo, a role that she held for the 2016 Rio Games as well. Out of the pool, she's an avid mental health advocate, speaking out about her personal struggles with depression and her family's tragedy of losing a loved one to suicide. So as an advisory council member for the Michael Phelps Foundation, Allison works to help educate on the importance of water safety and mental wellness. She's passionate about raising awareness and helping those who are battling mental health issues. She earned her undergraduate degree in psychology from the University of Georgia and is completing her master's degree in social work from Arizona State University. Plans to pursue a career in mental health after leaving the pool. So welcome, Allison.
Thank you. Excited to be here.
And last but not least, Tiffany Parker. Tiffany, thank you for joining us.
Glad to be here.
Tiffany is an Olympic level multi-event heptathlete for track and field. That's a 7-event competition consisting of 100-meter hurdles, high jump, shot put, 200-meter sprint, long jump, javelin throw, and 800-meter run. She could do it all. She's trained to compete in the Winter Olympics in 2022 as a bobsledder. Her career highlights a USA Olympic trials competition and has over 8 USA and international championship performances. She also specializes in sprint and anaerobic coaching for CrossFit athletes, creating specific programming and specially developed sprint technique and speed workshops. She also works as a Valor Executive Success Coach and a virtual nutritionist. Tiffany, incredible. Thank you for joining us.
Absolutely. So happy to be here.
Let's just dive right in, and we'll start with the question of what inspires you, because all of you are here for the same reason. You're inspired to educate and create awareness around mental health treatment. So where did that come from? And how about Nina, we start with you.
Okay. What inspired me to get into this forum? I grew up with my husband in the same hometown, and he lost his father to suicide right around when we were 9 years old. And for 30 plus years, we never spoke of it. We didn't even speak of his name. And we both kind of grew up with our own emotional challenges. I suffered from anxiety most of my life. And we kind of just, when he became the head coach of Ohio State about 4 years ago, we sat down and talked about what kind of, initiative we were going to get behind. And even 4 years ago, it wasn't really spoken a lot about. And we realized we had a platform now. And we decided to get into the area of mental health. And it was about the same time Ryan started talking about his father for the first time. And, since he lost, his dad. So ever since then, we've just been kind of trying to break the stigmas around mental health. We have 3 children now. And our goal is for them to be raised in a community society where if they experience any type of mental illness, that they're not ashamed and they're not afraid to speak out, and that they feel supported. There's resources in the schools, with coaches, so that they can probably get treated and things that, Ryan and I didn't have growing up.
I want to ask you a follow-up on that, actually, before we get some of the others to chime in, because there is a stigma, as you mentioned. What do you think some of those misconceptions are?
I think mental illness has been in the shadow for, ever since, in the last couple of years, I do see, people are starting to break down the stigmas, but there's just a lot of shame that goes with having mental illness. Ryan felt ashamed to, that he lost his dad, to suicide 30 years ago. And he's not ashamed about that anymore. And he's not ashamed. And he's teaching his players not to feel ashamed if they have depression, if they have anxiety, because everybody at one point in their life, doesn't feel mentally healthy. And we just need to normalize the conversation around it.
Tiffany, we'll come to you next. What inspires you to advocate for mental health?
Yeah, as an athlete, your focus, your ability to really just set your mind to a goal. It takes an extreme amount of focus. It takes an extreme amount of perseverance. I've learned a lot from switching from track and field to bobsled, going into 2 different Olympic disciplines, that you're a small fish in a big pond all over again. And you have to look at failure in different ways. And all of those things come with emotions. And I personally didn't really know how to regulate my emotions, and why I became so passionate about mental health and being able to find support circles. I've always regulated my emotions under a bar. I've been a competitive athlete for 15 years of my life. And if I was angry, if I was happy, if I was sad, I lost my mom in 2011 of a brain aneurysm. And so it was immediate. And in the midst of me being in my senior year of college, in that whole week, I was back on campus. I walked into our athletic department chair's office like I did every Monday, said, "Hey, Gary, how's everything going?" And he was so confused at how I was able to just go back into normal life after this huge event had happened to me. Did I take time to grieve it? Did I go through a process? And my process was back into sport. And he was like, "I feel like you should maybe take some time." And I'm like, "Oh no, I'm cool." I went back into track. I talked to my coaches. I was just yeah, as long as I keep moving, as long as I have an outlet, that's how I need to express myself right now. We pan to the retirement stage of life that has happened recently to me, where you really look at, I can't regulate my emotions under a barbell anymore for 6 hours a day, 6 days a week. I had a sports psychologist for a long time in my career, and now I have a therapist, because I have always been an athlete, but I'm not a competitive athlete, and not being ashamed to tell people that, not being ashamed to say yeah, hey, I have a therapist. I've talked to someone for 15 years of my life on how to be the best athlete I can be. And my goal is to be the best person that I can be, and not being afraid to figure out new ways on what emotional regulation looks like, and to encourage people to hey, if you just want to talk and you need a space, it's probably why I ended up going into leadership and coaching and behavioral change. I needed that. And so now I get a chance to give that to other people and to find it for myself.
Yeah, you learn and work through things as you're helping others sometimes. Yeah,
absolutely.
Let's hear a little bit about your background and why this is an important topic for you.
My mission is to spread that it's okay to not be okay. And my biggest value in that is that everyone can be successful, even if they have a mental illness, and you're not defined by your mental illness. You can use different coping skills or different ways to cope with that. And that's, like Tiffany was talking about, that's why we talk to therapists. And that's why we speak out about our own mental illnesses, to inspire others. And my mission is to inspire others that it's okay to reach out. I think as athletes and growing up stubborn, it has helped us be successful in our careers, especially in sports. But it's also very important to understand that it's okay to ask for help. I know that as an athlete, I'm getting help from my coach, getting help from my peers and my teammates, nutritionists, trainers, whatever that is. In the big scheme of life, we need help from others. And sometimes that is reaching out to a therapist. So my mission is to destigmatize the negativity around therapists, and that they are there to help our lives go smoother and kind of clear up our minds, because we're human beings and it's okay to think negatively and to get into a dark space, but it's not okay to stay there. And that's why we need to reach out for help and accept that, swallow our pride and accept that it's okay to ask for help.
I'll pose this question to the group. Do you feel that, some of these stigmas and misconceptions about mental health and the various degrees of ways that people suffer, whether it's, depression, anxiety, pressure from performing in a certain way, is the fact that, because it seems like people are talking more and more now, whereas before maybe it was you suffered in silence and you didn't want to show anyone that you were going through a hard time, or you didn't want to show weakness, or especially as an athlete, you don't want to show that you have, a chink in your armor because you want to be tough and you've got to go out there and perform. But as the conversations are being brought to light and we're getting together in groups like this, and you're hearing more and more professional athletes come out and talk about the importance of addressing this, is that going to help break down the stigmas that exist? What do you guys think?
Yeah, I can chime in on that. Absolutely. I have a quote where I feel like I was the boulder that had to carry everything. I had to carry everything that I rolled, I picked up, and it just came with me. I had to help my friends. I had to help myself. I had to, anything that needed help, I had to be the person to do it. And the same thing with performance. You get into an arena and you can't show fear. You might feel it internally, but you can't show fear. You can't look at your competitor and be like, hey, I'm scared today. I don't even know how that would happen. I have never in my career seen that. But it just takes more people that are those boulders in the world, those people that have the audiences that are being carried along with whatever their walk in life is, whatever impact they have, to be okay, having a dent in their boulder and talking about it and realizing it can still move. It can still inspire and pick up traction and take people along with it. But it's okay to say that the boulder's cracked a little bit or that a chip has fallen off. And I just think it takes vulnerability and openness to be able to share that. And I know I'm not the only one that feels that way. So everyone else can feel free to chime in too. But I think it's really just vulnerability of you're human, like Allison said, and it's okay to not be okay.
Yeah, I think too, when I was talking to a couple of researchers about this, I asked them why there's always so much pushback on the mental health field and research. And it's because unlike the flu and unlike COVID and like all these other things, there's distinct symptoms. There's fevers, there's body aches, there's loss of appetite, around mental illness, there's such a wide array of symptoms that comes with it. And it's very hard to pinpoint. So everyone goes through things differently. So it's harder to diagnose. And it's harder to kind of, for most people to wrap their brains around what's going on with someone. And for so many years, it looked upon as, a mental weakness. And so those are types of stigmas, we're trying to break down and I think the more people talk about it, we're not all alone in this. Everyone can identify with somebody's story. Someone's lost someone knows someone that suffered from it. So the more we talk about it and normalize it is hopefully in 10 years, our children don't even think twice about talking about days they're having that are not going great because it's normalized. Just like no one hesitates to tell people they have a cold, maybe in 10 years we can say, well, I'm not having a good day mentally, and it's normalized.
Right. And it's not looked at as a sign of weakness. Mm-hmm. Is there, again, a question to the group, and this might be a tough one to answer because you might have to think for a minute, but has there been a moment that you can recall in your own personal history that you wish you would have done something differently? You wish you would have handled it differently, a specific instance? And then, of course, how would you have changed things if you could have retrospectively?
I guess I'll answer it as a broad question. I believe that we're so stuck in the hustle and bustle of everyday life that sometimes when we ask, hey, how are you? We're not really looking for a quick answer and not really the truthful answer. And so I've tried to make a very conscious effort in the past few years to ask that question and ask it meaningfully, and not just say, hey, how are you as I'm walking by, but really stop and give attention to that person to ask them how they truly are. And I believe that in today's world, we get stuck with moving very quickly and aren't able to truly hear how someone feels. And when we look back on kids and teenagers, they love to talk. We don't always give them the opportunity as adults to talk because we're on to the next assignment or on to the next meeting or whatever that is. So I think it's important to really stop and ask someone truly how they are and mean it when you ask someone how they are.
I love that. That's so true. And I could definitely relate to that, getting caught up in just the craziness of daily life. And since it was a tough question, I'll chime in with something. I think that, I look back on certain times in my life where I wanted to speak up about something and I didn't because I was either afraid of the conflict or I wasn't confident in myself to express what I needed or what I wanted or what my opinion was. And, I walk away from a situation and I didn't see any results. I didn't yield any results, positive, negative, anything, because I didn't speak up. And as I've grown and as I've matured and I've identified some of these weaknesses in myself, I've found a little bit more of a voice to speak up. And I think to find your voice and to articulate what you need in that moment, it kind of goes, into what we're talking about today and being able to speak without fear of rejection or failure or, being judged or criticized. Did anybody else want to chime in on that one?
I was just going to point out, if I could go back 20, 25 years, I wish I could, I was, all athletes. I was never the athlete that, these are the panels where I feel like I need to go for a run right now after hearing what they've all accomplished. But I wish I could go back and, I always took care of myself physically. I hydrated and got enough sleep and, ate healthy and all that. I wish I could go back and perform mental fitness and understand self-care and boundaries and nurturing healthy relationships, know when to identify a toxic one. And that's kind of what I'm trying to teach my kids more, because they're very focused on, drinking their water and getting to bed and performing at high levels. But as we all know, you can't perform at high levels if you're just physically fit. You have to be mentally fit too.
So how do you teach that, whether it's to your kids, whether it's to your teammates, whether it's, in a symposium like this, whether it's to your friends or your loved ones? How do you teach mental agility and toughness? Is it simply lead by example? How do you do that?
Well, just, from what Ryan and I are, with our children and even his team, you need to perform a lot of self-care. And as we just were talking about earlier, the hustle and bustle of life can overwhelm you, and the pressures of being, an athlete, or just, any type of day-to-day pressures. Self-care is really important. Taking time for yourself, setting boundaries, learning how to say no, practicing empathy, all things that are not talked about enough with our youth.
How about Allison and Tiffany?
I'm sitting here like nodding, like this is completely everything that I agree with. I think as an athlete and being in this sport for 20 years, knowing that I wanted to succeed and my coaches knew how to help me get there, I didn't speak up. And now when I do cry and when I feel emotions come up, it comes up right in my throat. And I've spoke with therapists about that. And it's because I didn't feel like I had a voice. And so I truly believe in giving someone a voice and allowing space to let them speak with no judgment is the best way to teach that and allow that to happen. Like I said before, we learn to be quiet. We learn to shove everything down and not address it. But if we allow in a free, non-judgmental space, we're able to freely talk about those true feelings.
Yeah, I would definitely have to second that. I feel like I was definitely that kid that, like, I'm about to date myself kind of, in elementary school, where you had to write like an adjective with your first name, and mine was talkative Tiffany. And like, I always had energy. I always had a voice. I always was like just that person. And it's ironic that it ended up being my career path in executive coaching and high performance in an arena that like is a boardroom. And I learned as I was rounding my career, creating a space for people to be seen, valued, heard, and felt was like my mission. Like, I love it. It's what drives me. And I realized the same space that I am so great at creating for other people, I didn't allow myself that same space. And you wouldn't get that from a personality like mine, that like, I love building communities. Like, I am very much everywhere. You wouldn't look at me and see, oh, like she looks like she's struggling with something. And so, to the point of Allison and to the point of Nina, of just really see people for people. It doesn't matter if they're introverts, extroverts. You never know what someone is trying to juggle. You never know what they're going through. And so if I could go back and talk to my younger self, I would honestly tell her to like take up space, because it's so funny. As much space as I encourage other people to take up, and I give them mental drills of connecting with themselves and their self-talk and framing that in a positive light, sometimes I often lack doing that for myself. And so, yeah, I would go back and tell her to just take up more space.
And when you say take up space, what does that mean exactly?
Yeah, that's, be talkative. Like, it's okay. Like, smile, do whatever, literally set your soul on fire. If you want to be in a red Jeep, like I had this dream. I don't know why, when I was little, I was like, I need an electrical red Jeep, where like everyone else had Barbie Corvettes. And I was like, okay, pink's not really my color, but like, I want this. And so I remember vividly, like, I never said that to my parents. My brother said it. And like, we were fortunate where like he got one. I was like, oh man, I can't have a Jeep. And like, I never realized why I couldn't have one. And so to take up space, I realized, especially working with a lot of women that I work with, if you give them the option of ranking themselves out of 10, 9 out of 10 times for me, they're always at like a 7. Like, they never really give themselves the full 10 potential. If I'm working with men, I get 10s all the time. And so, not to put it, I know Nina's laughing, but it is so true, where I'm just like, if you have the option to fully take up the space, whether that space is a cube, a circle, whatever shape you want it to be, like, step into it with your full self, physically, emotionally, mentally, to the best of your ability. And don't be afraid to really like take up that space that you are allowed to be in, and to give yourself that permission. So hopefully that defines that.
it's probably, because you're working with adults, it's probably easier for them to wrap their head around, the conversation and maybe the internal introspective work that there is. But for Nina and, dealing with children, kids that their minds are not as developed yet, what have you learned about your work with children and mental health and wellness? What have you seen?
Well, 1 in 5 children suffer from some type of mental illness, and most lifelong illnesses develop before the age of 14 years old. So it's imperative that we start educating our youth, because by the time they're in their late teens and 20s, they've already developed a significant mental illness. So, it's just important to educate them on what mental illness is, what mental health is, how to take care of their minds as well as their bodies, educated them. And then most importantly, just providing enough safe and supportive spaces for them to communicate. And that's, oftentimes getting them off social media and things like that, and making sure they have like safe, supportive, places, whether it's a coach, a teacher, a guidance counselor, even their peers, somebody they can talk to. Because, most of the time, if they have somebody to talk to, we could probably save them from actually committing suicide. It's those that have nowhere to turn is where we end up starting to lose kids. And it's a major problem in our country right now.
And you and your husband had recently, as I mentioned earlier, established a fund to support the work around mental health and wellness. So what does that mean, resiliency in mental health?
Well, we just find resiliency a powerful shield when you talk about mental health. And when you talk about mental health, people kind of just take a deep breath because there's just so many negative things that people think about when they think of mental illness, especially the devastation it causes so many people and families. So resilience, Ryan and I look at it more of like in a positive way where we can talk about people's strengths in the face of adversity. And teaching people, how to, learn, adapt, and even thrive in faces of adversity and challenges. Life is hard, and most of us have a lot of things we need to overcome on a day-to-day basis. And resiliency is, the perfect tool for most of us to grab onto and kind of talk to our kids about, because it's so important.
How do you find yourself? Throw this one up to the group, leading by example?
I think it's just always being me. Like my social media platforms on Twitter, how you see me now is very much how I am. I don't have a filter when it comes to, hey, I'm struggling. I've always been that athlete that posted myself failing. If I had a day where it was really a mental struggle for me to wake up and go to training, like I've always shown the podium effect where people see the athlete inside of an arena, they're cheering, but they don't see the basement. They don't see the living out of 2 suitcases. They don't see the injuries. They don't see the tears. They don't see the deaths in family. They don't see the things that not even just athletes, but people carry around with them that allow them to be that portrait that they see above that surface. And so I very much believe in showing both sides of the mirror. The struggles that I've had to go through, as well as the triumphs that I had because of those struggles, and just really not being ashamed of the story that's made me the person on the other side of the screen today.
What I'm hearing you say is authenticity and being who you are, no matter what that looks like. How difficult is it? Because we do live in this day and age where everybody's on social media, and especially if you're a public figure or an athlete, and you're expected to put out a certain level of content, so to speak. How difficult is it to maintain that authenticity when there's this wide public audience? It's not necessarily your closest friend and your siblings or your parents or whatnot. It's a broader group of people that are consuming your authenticity.
Yeah, I've always told myself I will never work with a brand that I don't believe in. I will never partner with something that doesn't align with the story of who Tiffany is or where Tiffany wants to be. So for me is like, I am a creative mind thinker, but I like art. I was going to major in art history, but I'm also like the athlete. I'm the best of both worlds. And so with that type of mindset and the ability to hyper focus, I get in spiral thoughts all the time. I could literally sit down and be in a spiral for an hour over trying to figure out how to make something work or not work, whatever that is. It's the gift that being a professional athlete has given me. Sometimes I call it a curse, but I realize that, you know, how I get out of that is I have to tell myself, like, what if it all works out? So where I could have spiraled for an hour, I now have the awareness, because I've practiced it. Everything is a practice of, okay, like Allison said, she feels it in her throat. Like, I have this giant sigh of, like, I can't even mimic it. I just do it innately. My body is just like, ugh. And like, I know that is my trigger of, okay, what if this all works out? Like, what if everything that you're sitting here thinking in this deep thought about, of these what ifs, give yourself a what if that can allow you to put an action to it. Go into the resilience of Nina, like, always about, it's okay if you want to spiral in your thoughts, set a timer for 10 minutes if that's where you're at. Spiral away for 10 minutes, but ask yourself what you want to do coming out of that spiral. And so for me, it's that authenticity. For me, it's looking at brands that I want to align with. And it's just, yeah, I post stuff like that. I'm like, yeah, this is what creative minded athletes do when they spiral. This is what helped me, like asking myself, what if it all works out? And the amount of people, not athletes, that has been able to help just by saying, here's a couple of words that might help you. I think it just, yeah, it's amazing and does its own work in volumes.
Like Tiffany said, I think as an athlete, we learn more from our struggles and our failures than we have from any successes we've had. And that speaks volumes, because growing up and being an athlete, we're not taught that. We're taught to celebrate those wins and those trophies and those records. But how are we supposed to act when we don't get that? Do we throw our goggles across the pool? Do we break baseball bats? Do we chuck the ball? Whatever that is. And to me, being a professional athlete now, it's, yes, you can have those moments of disappointments, of having those failures. And yes, you can have the highs of winning something or getting that trophy or getting that record. But like Tiffany says, live in that moment for 5 minutes, allow yourself to be disappointed for 5 minutes, allow yourself to be excited for 5 minutes, and then learn from those. Whether it is a failure or it is a win for you, you can learn from both aspects of those.
Why do you think it's important to take that 5 or 10 minutes to allow yourself to sit in it? Whether it's the spiral or the darkness or the whatever it is internally that's going on, why do you think it's important to take that time to acknowledge it and to sort of face it and feel it?
Because we're human. I wish we were robots. I wish we were humans. But we are humans and we do have those emotions, and that's what allows us to be who we are. And that's being true to ourselves. So yes, sit in those feelings, know what that feels like, but learn from those feelings. And I think that's a big thing that the whole world learned during the pandemic is we actually have to sit with how we feel, and we have to sit with no one else around us and with no other distractions and try and figure out these different emotions we're feeling. So I do believe now as a world, we are more aware of emotions, and now we're trying to navigate how to deal with those emotions.
What do you think? Maybe Nino can chime in on this one. What is the key to finding the balance between that? Between, feeling the negativity because we're human and then pulling out of that?
Well, I think we need to just, acknowledge that, it's, it's okay not to be okay. But acknowledging when you're not okay and having the courage to speak up and ask for help. And that's where, a lot of us as humans have a hard time figuring out at what point do I ask for help? Because let's be real, nobody's happy 24/7, every day. I mean, that's an unrealistic goal and something that I tell my kids often about. Most days, you're not going to be happy the majority of the time. You feel so many emotions throughout the day, and we need to stop telling everybody they need to be happy all the time. I'm not saying you walk around miserable, but there's a lot of emotions that we as humans feel that we need to acknowledge and work through in order to, attain happiness. And acknowledging them and working through them is resilience. And then when you can't move past those negative emotions, negative feelings, and you're stuck, that's when you need to have the courage to ask for help.
I'm going to pose one last question to the group, and I'd love to hear from everybody on this. But knowing what you know today and the experiences that you've had in your own personal journeys throughout this topic, what would be your advice to those that are listening today and maybe over the next few days as we talk about sportsmanship and leadership and citizenship?
I'll start. I think it's important for everyone to acknowledge that they are unique and we're like a big puzzle. And in order for that puzzle to be completed, we need every single person in there. And that's my encouragement for people to reach out, for people to ask for help. Because when a suicide does happen, and my cousin had lost her life to suicide, that's a piece of the puzzle that our family will never be replicated. That puzzle piece is now gone. And so for me, the biggest message is know that you're unique, but know that this world needs you.
Yeah, I love that. And also I think as people talk about things too, you realize that you're not the only one who's dealt with, I have a cousin who's had a horrible drug addiction. And, and you talk about these things and you realize that other people are going through similar experiences, and that's we're a community and we can lean on each other. As you learn that other people are on a similar path or have gone through similar experiences, even though they're ugly experiences and they're tough to talk about. I think it really helps when we talk about these things and, we can lean on each other. Anyone else to chime in?
I would just piggyback on that and just, tell people that, they're not alone, what they're feeling, others have felt. And, the last option should never be, wanting, to go away forever. Somebody will always listen and someone will always, support them and, to have the courage to speak up.
Yeah, I would say the same thing. It's every staircase has a basement to it. Like everyone has something that they're struggling with that they've dealt with. And it might not be the exact same thing that you might be going through, but it might be similar. And so being able to have a space where it's okay to just talk about it. And it's okay to not be okay. I'm 34 years old and I don't even know all the emotions I have. So I like Nina having kids and having them try to understand all the emotions that they have. Like it's okay. We all don't. Everyone's just trying to figure it out. That's my firm belief is everyone's trying to figure it out. Everyone has a space. And yeah, I need help trying to figure out those emotions, just like the kids that Nina has, as she's helping them trying to figure out their emotions and how to identify them and how to choose to put whatever action that might look like for them in a way that they can be proud of and a choice that they can own in the amazing life that they have.
It has been so wonderful, so awesome hearing from all of you and your thoughts and your personal stories. So thank you guys so much for taking the time and for supporting this cause and offering your advice. Thank you guys.
Thank you. And thank you everyone for sharing. I'm inspired by listening to this conversation and being part of it.
That was an amazing discussion. We've heard from really some incredibly inspiring women today. We're going to wrap up our day with Miss Val once again with Katelyn Ohashi live from the Rose Bowl Stadium playing field.
Katelyn and I were so excited about being a part of the Rose Bowl Institute because when you start to hear especially her story, you're going to understand why we're so excited to be here to help share with you our journeys and help inspire you to really start finding your own style of leadership, who you are, what your moral foundation is, like who are you? And I just want you to think about something right now. In the history of humans on this planet, there's never been another you. And when you pass, there never will be another you. You're here for a reason. And one of the fun parts about life is figuring out what that reason and that calling is and taking charge of your life. So it always cracks me up when people enumerate my accolades and all that winning stuff and coach of the century and this and that. Because the most fun fact is that I've never done gymnastics. I was a ballet dancer. And I literally could not teach you a proper cartwheel right now, even though I was at UCLA gymnastics for 37 years. And when I came to UCLA in 1982 to be their choreographer. And when I graduated, they asked me to be the head coach. And I laughed out loud and I said, I don't think you remember. I don't know the first thing about gymnastics. And the only thing they told me was, I trust you'll figure it out. And I guess I figured it out pretty well because you heard all that winning stuff that we did, that I led them to. But I just want to share with you that the secret sauce to success in anything in life is bringing two qualities: hard work and attitude. Effort and attitude. And as leaders, I feel one of the worst things that leaders, especially young leaders, think is that you have to have all the answers. And there's not a great leader on the planet that has all the answers. And so as you start forging your own voice, finding your own voice and forging your own leadership, I encourage you to just dig into that humility and vulnerability and ask a ton of questions, listen well, and then start really to develop who you are, who your voice is, what your calling is, what your unique light is. Start fueling that and then sharing that.
Hi everyone. As Ms. Val said, I'm Katelyn, and I feel like throughout my journey, it was about finding my unique path and what my definition of success is like. And so for most gymnasts, that looks like going to the Olympics. And for a really long time, that was my path. I was on the national team by the time I was 12. And I got into a really environmentally toxic situation. And so I feel like I lost myself and I lost the joy for the sport and what I was doing. And I truly believe that if you're not 100% invested in what you're doing, something will take you out of that. And that happened to be my body. I got injured when I was 16 and was told I might not ever do gymnastics again. And that was the first sign of happiness I had in a really long time, which is crazy. You might not ever do the sport again. And I was like, a weight has been lifted off of me. And so for the first time in my career, I got to ask myself what I actually wanted, because I was doing everything for everyone else around me. And that was the first time I was like, I want to go to college. I want to go to UCLA, because I didn't know anything about college. So I was like, I just know 4 letters, and everyone talks about UCLA, and everyone talks about Miss Val. So when I was 16, that was the first time I made the call. And that's another really big thing, is like making the ask, because no one's going to come knocking on your door. You have to put yourself out there. You have to be vulnerable. You have to, ask people for an opportunity. And what you make with that opportunity is how it goes. So called Miss Val, was really nervous. We ended up having an amazing conversation. And I decided that I wanted to get back into the gym and try to do my best in college. And in the beginning, it wasn't easy because I was still kind of taking out my anger on the sport and my previous coaches. And I kind of did that to Miss Val, so she knows all about that.
I learned meditation at that point.
Thank God. So, yeah, it took me really being honest with myself and what I wanted to finally find happiness and my definition of success. If it weren't for me being happy and really loving the sport again, 2019 never would have happened. That viral routine, that viral moment of all the joy that you saw in that routine was because I truly was just happy where I was.
Mm-hmm. When she says make the ask, that's one of the most important things that we can learn in life. And she got to UCLA because she called me. I mean, imagine this, okay? She just beat Simone Biles in the American Cup. She's the it girl. Nobody's recruiting her because we know she's going to go to the Olympic Games and make a ton of money, and she's not going to go to college. And I get a call, and she's like, "Hi, Miss Val, it's Katelyn Ohashi." I was like, it was like someone saying, "Hi, Miss Val, it's Serena Williams." Like, oh my gosh. But what I remember most about that call, A, she picked up the phone and made the ask, and B, she was very honest and vulnerable. So when I asked her, you know, why are you quitting elite right now? The Olympics are right around the corner. And she responded so vulnerably and said, everything about being great it makes my life miserable. I was like, okay, because she was honest with me, I knew that I could work with her, because in any type of relationship that's going to be healthy, we have to learn to be honest and trust each other. When she's talking about the ask, I was at UCLA for 37 years. I mean, I'm here right now because of an ask that I made. I was a ballerina. Like, why were they going to hire me? I picked up the phone in 1982. I found out who the head coach was. I said, "These are my credentials. Do you need a choreographer?" That's how I got to UCLA, by making the ask. They didn't call me, like she said. They didn't call me. I called them. Okay, so let's move into some of the really fun stuff about Katelyn. So she comes to college, and what adjectives would you use? She rebelled. She rebelled. She was recruited to be this dynamic best gymnast in the country, and she was like, okay, you know, she wasn't great. She was like, eh. But this is the important part. We had just started our competition season. We were in a team meeting, and our sports psychologist was asking them, every single athlete on the team, what's the anchor in you that's holding you back from becoming your best self? And some of them said, FOPO, fear of other people's opinions. Some of them said, I can't get my dad's voice out of my head. You know, he just berates me about having to win. And it got to Katelyn, and she had the courage to very clearly say, I don't want to be great again. And so my question to you is, what were you thinking in that moment, and how did you summon the courage to say that to your team that was relying on you, and to your coach that's giving you a full scholarship? I want to hear this, Katelyn. I've never asked you that question. Let's get down and dirty.
Well, kind of like she said, our whole relationship was built on trust, and I feel like I am an honest person, and that was something that I was feeling at the time. Everything in my life, when I was the best in the top of my career, I was miserable. And so coming onto a team and still expected to be that great dynamic person that was recruited at the top of their game, that doesn't go away, being miserable and how it makes you feel. So everything I was internalizing, being on a team where I was expected from not just myself, gymnastics is an individual sport, right? So coming onto a team where I didn't realize everything that I did affected them, I was just about myself. I'm gonna go to college, I'm gonna have fun, that's what I came here to do. But then I realized I was also recruited, and I did have a scholarship. And so it took me a while to kind of get used to that thought, and also it took me a while to be in a place where I felt like I could be great again without being miserable. But something I actually would love to talk to Ms. Val about is, how did that answer make you feel?
Tables turned. To be honest, as soon as she said, I don't want to be great again, my first thought bubble was, then what the heck am I paying you $60,000 a year for? And thankfully, I was smart enough not to say that, because that just, all that would do would be to say that I only care about her for the scores that she can bring our team to help us win. And so thankfully I was smart enough to understand that's not how I'm feeling, and that's not healthy. And then my next thought bubble was, somehow I have to help her find the joy in the process. And she has the talent to achieve excellence. Let me help her find that joy. And I knew the only way I could do that was to motivate her to want to make changes in her life to achieve that level of excellence again. I could not dictate to her what to do. I couldn't say, you got to go get in shape. I couldn't say, you've got to care more about your gymnastics. And we're living, and the reason why this is so important that we're all here, all of us, the young, the middle-aged, the older, the reason why it's so important we're all here right now is because we're living in a time where we can talk openly about mental health and wellness, and it's not a stigma, it's not a bad thing. We're living in a time where you have been empowered to have a voice, and I encourage you to practice speaking your voice with honesty and respect to whomever you want. And if you're not being honest, you're not being respectful. Because if she wasn't being honest at that point, basically she would have been saying, Miss Val, you're not strong enough to handle the truth. That I just don't want to be great again. And she, okay, bye. She, like the next day or day after, comes in the gym, looks me in the eye, this little face here, looks me in the eye and says, I just want you to know, everything you tell me to do, I do the exact opposite.
Okay, so maybe I rebelled a lot.
And once again, deep breath. And I was like, my inner voice was saying, oh, challenge accepted, you little brat. Okay, here we go. No, but so we did. A big part of Katelyn's turnaround was her, and this started halfway through her sophomore year, I think, was her finding her realizing that this is Katelyn Ohashi. She's a whole person, and her gymnastics was just a part of it. So any of you that say, oh, I'm a basketball player, it's like, okay, you know what? You were born with a really strong mind and a really strong body to be able to play basketball, but you weren't born that's a choice you made in life. It's just a part of you. And so her sophomore year, I remember she was in the gym, and I remember hearing a statistic. Okay, listen up, you young people. There's a statistic that said young girls and women who have phones are on their phones 8 hours a day. And boys are on their phones 6 hours a day. And if you're in your 20s, by the time you're 80, the average person will have spent 15 years of their lives on scrolling. So that's scared me. So I asked Katelyn, I said, do you think that's true? And she said, I do. And then I said to her, I said, you know, why don't you start using your phone for something good? Because it's a choice. Your phone just doesn't tell you what to look at, even though the algorithms do. It's your choice what to scroll. It's your choice what to look at. I said, why don't you look up TED Talks? She didn't know what a TED Talk was. So I said, you can look up anything you want in life from experts. She came in the next day, and it literally was like that was the moment that she really started taking control of who she was as a whole human being. Because she came in the next day and shared with me that she spent about 4 hours going through TED Talks. And I was like, well, what did you gravitate toward? And that's when she said she started gravitating toward anti-bullying TED Talks. She started looking at TED Talks about the effects of body shaming. She started listening to TED Talks about the homeless situation. And she started realizing, you know how I said we're all unique and we all have this unique light inside of us? She started realizing what that light inside of her looked like and what fueled her light. And since then, she has become a poet. When she won her ESPY, she gave her ESPY speech in spoken word. And it's all about championing these causes that are near and dear to her. So, throwing it back to you, Kate. How have you been able to manage celebrity up here, social media? Do you ever post stuff because you're supposed to? Do you ever like things because you're supposed to? Or because they really are true to your heart? And how do you stay grounded when everybody else wants to tear you down? Because when you get, if you have haters in your life, if you have people out there saying yucky things about you, it's only because you're up here, right? You can't pull someone down that's already down here. It's because you're up here. So take it as a compliment, basically.
Yeah, I think that's a really good question. I feel like something that I learned a lot in college, I think from a young age, I had already accumulated a decent following since I was on the national team and everything like that. But then going to college, I kind of realized how important it is to be a mentor, to have mentors. And actually, I want to go back to something because Miss Val, not being a gymnast, made her have a different perspective. And when you're at college, you don't need a coach to tell you how to do things. We already have this skill. That's how we made it to college. We need someone to give us life lessons and to teach us things that we didn't know before getting there. And so I think that's what's really cool about having a mentor like Miss Val. And so that kind of leads into my answer is I have really amazing people around me. One of my best friends is in the crowd, and she's also my manager, and I'm really blessed to have met someone like that actually at college through gymnastics. And I have Miss Val, and I have really my core group that never allows me to, you know, as easy as it gets to get wrapped up in social media, because it's pretty much our everything. It's how we connect with people nowadays. It's how we share our lives.
Talk about it being your brand.
Okay, so talking about do I post things that I don't specifically want to or necessarily want to? Of course, I have to, because that is honestly part of how I make my money. So I have to go on social media and I have to post these things. And sometimes, I mean, as grounded as I feel like I am, it's really easy to get wrapped up in. And it is really easy to allow these negative comments to get to me, because if you get 1,000 positive ones, for some reason, those 2 negative ones weigh a lot. And no one sees, someone commenting just sees the one that they put out there. No one but you feels the heaviness of 1,000 of those comments. So I remember coming to her, this was my senior year, and I had asked her, like, I was going through it. It seemed like a whole group of people got together and then just bombarded me one day with all of these negative things, and I felt horrible about myself. So I came into the gym and had a conversation with Miss Val, and she was like, if you don't stand for something, you fall for everything. So you continue standing for what you believe in, no matter what. And so I feel like I've been able to live a really authentic life on social media and share the things that I really enjoy doing. And I've had to, learn how to have a level head with that stuff, because not everyone's going to love everything you post. And that's okay. Like she said, you can't drag something that's down that's not already up here. So, I try to just have fun with social media. It's not everything, because at the end of the day, guess what? We're surrounded by the people that know us, and that's the most important thing. It doesn't matter how these people perceive you online. They don't know anything about you. So being true to yourself is so, so important.
And so my challenge to all of us today is to take time every day and figure out who you are, what do you respect and like about yourself. And then when you're approached by someone or you read something and it doesn't jive with your moral compass, at least have an open mind to hear why, instead of just digging in your heels. Because I think we all have experienced that digging in our heels. But and this is where I think the only help that we have with social media, not destroying us, is education and learning about each other. And it's like when any hater comes after me, you've heard hurt people, right? People that are hurting are the ones that hurt other people on social media. People that aren't hurting don't go on social media and say horrible things. So to be able to have some compassion for people and realize, wow, that's coming from a really dark place of hurt, is going to help you let what she said, the comments wash over you and not go through you and get settled into you.
I actually read a comment the other day. Someone shared their opinion and someone's like, that's so rude. And the person responding was like, this is social media. We're allowed to share our opinions. And I thought it was so hilarious because I'm like, it's true. And now everyone has a voice and everyone can use that however they want. And it's kind of like we were talking about, like, I feel like perspective is everything, but literally nothing at all. So just realizing that, like, we all come from different places and it isn't black and white. Like, there's so many different gray areas as to why we do something, whether it's to protect someone, but it hurts someone else in the meantime, and the one person sees it that was hurt. So I feel like taking it in, because there are a lot of different angles to look at.
And it's really important to really think and take responsibility for your posts, for your likes, for any of that. That is your personal brand. Picking and choosing who you want in your life. Katelyn has done a great job of choosing people in her life that inspire her in a positive way. Katelyn does not have people in her inner circle that are negative just so that she can have more friends, or just so that she can say, oh, so-and-so is my friend and we went out the other night. It's really important. And I want you to think about your friends' seasons of life. You know how we have seasons during the year? Okay? You go through seasons in life, and you're not going to have the same friends in your inner circle for your whole life. And it's up to you to choose who really fuels you and inspires you to enjoy every single day of your life. And figure out to enjoy, like, if I can get 1% better today, I've had a great day. And usually that 1% better is controlling my thoughts and not going to, you're so cute. You're like over there. She's just like, yeah. And then she's writing stuff down. It's like, great. Okay. Anything else we want to talk about? Because I could talk about leadership all day long. It's really, really important to understand every single one of you sitting here has strong leadership qualities inside of you. And the fun part about life is figuring out how to develop those and share them. I think it's super important to talk about what success looks like. And it's not winning. It's about success beyond the win in anything in life. So if you're going to talk with your teammate and she's going through a hard time, it's like, let's just talk about what success is going to look like today. And if you can only bring 40% today, then bring 100% of your 40%. And what will that get them to verbalize what it's going to look like? And what I have found in asking this question, 99% of the time they'll say, I need to stop the negative thoughts. I need to stop talking badly about myself. I need to pump myself up. And so maybe getting 1% better today or feeling successful today is silencing the negativity in your voice, in your head, so that when you go to bed that night, you can have some quiet time. You go, you know what? I did a good job today. I didn't say all those negative things to myself today. If you did that for one day, you have lived a successful day. And to help them define what success looks like. Because this is a big problem we have. In our culture, we cannot feel successful unless we have won. Unless we brought home the national championship. I mean, Simone Biles could not feel successful, is not supposed to feel successful because she supposedly quit on her team. And Simone Biles' success at these Olympic Games was really standing up for herself, knowing who she was, what her moral compass is and moral fiber, and standing up for herself when nobody else was going to do it. She had a very successful Olympic Games. Very.
Also, another thing is, like, I feel like sometimes inspiration doesn't even come from what you're trying to gain, quote unquote, success in, right? Like, for me personally, I feel like I had to explore myself outside of gymnastics in order to become successful in the sport. So, like, me listening to TED Talks, or me going out and learning how to skateboard, me going out and having fun with friends and doing things that I love, and realizing that I wasn't just one type of thing or one type of person was really important for me to be able to bring inspiration from the outside world into my craft. And so sometimes it is about just having a heart-to-heart that has nothing to do with whatever you're involved in. So, like, letting people know that they don't have to be just that, their job, they're just their sport, just their, whatever they are doing. So yeah, like, have fun with that person and get into deep conversations, do something that they enjoy doing outside.
What I love about sharing my personal story is people say to me, well, when did you know you wanted to be a coach? I'm like, I never wanted to be a coach. I don't even consider myself a coach. Like, I consider myself like this glorified manager or something like that, or mentor. I'm not a coach.
It's true.
But this is the important thing. Life is going to open up things for you. Whether it's relationships with people, or opportunities for an internship, or working somewhere, and going on the Oprah Winfrey Network, life will open up for you.
You just have to be ready for it.
Yeah. And so how are you ready for it? It's very simple. It's not complicated. Show up with a good work ethic and enthusiasm. And enthusiasm to learn. That's as complicated as it gets. So how did a ballerina figure out how to be successful in the world of athletics? I don't even believe in this whole concept of winning. Like, athletics, when I got into it and started thinking about it, it's all about winning, which is all about bragging rights. Haha, we beat you. How shallow is that? So I reframed what athletics was to me. And I got to coach a sport that is superhuman. Like, what they do is not human. And I'm going to develop champions in life through the sport of gymnastics. I'm going to take this opportunity that I have with them, the 4 hours every day, develop champions in life that are going to go forward and make the world a better place through the sport. And if I can develop their character into being like these superheroes, we're going to win we're going to win. But my goal was success beyond the win. And I mean, think about our world. If we all would just kind of like partake in that philosophy, the yucky stuff would go away. If we all woke up every morning and fueled our personal light and shared that, our world would just blow up with positivity. Let's just do that tomorrow, okay? Let's all commit to doing that. Okay, so Katelyn and I were very honored to be a part of the Gold Over America tour with Simone Biles. And it was super, super important. I was one of the producers. It was super important that, for me, that Katelyn was able to share one of her gifts, one of her callings, that is spoken word. And she wrote a letter to her younger self that, get ready and get the Kleenex ready, because it is one of those. We should have had the video up there, Kate.
Yeah, it would have been great.
Okay. Hindsight. I know, it's really cool. But she wrote this, we put it up on our massive LED video board, and we showed videos of when she was like from 3 years old doing gymnastics all the way up. It was like, ah. So I've asked her to share her letter to her younger self, because there's a lot in there for all of us to just think about.
All right.
Stand up.
She's still my coach, guys. All right. Letters to my younger self. I know you're in a rush to grow big and wise, but as much as you love life right now, don't rush. You won't grow big, but you will grow wise. Remember the day you started asking questions with tears in your eyes. The rain started falling and answers that soon dry, leaving you with confusion and more questions unanswered. I'm sorry to tell you that some things are still unanswered, but as you navigate this journey, resiliently pushing through boundaries, you'll create your own. I remember when you started to walk, our feet have always been in such a rush, running full speed as they buckle underneath us, bringing us face to face with the floor. But every time you'll get back up for more. That doesn't really happen less when you get older, but you'll learn to catch yourself with more grace. And it also doesn't hurt that we learned how to fall properly because of gymnastics. And you will fall in gymnastics. You'll fall flat on your face, bruise your shins and knees, roll ankles, get surgeries, and even wear a back brace. There will be days when you want to quit, but when you're not in the gym, you'll feel out of place. And even in the gym, you'll feel small. Rooted in fear and abuse sometimes you can't even recognize, but I want to tell you, please don't believe all those lies. As of right now, that's the only thing you know, but it won't always be. One day you'll be bigger than that and even perform spoken word as a part of this show. You'll learn that your worth doesn't come from the medals you wear, the number on the scale, reaching the goals you set when you were 5, or even your coach telling you good job. And when you don't hear that single good job you were looking for, don't worry. It is yet to come. And I don't want to discourage you, but you won't make the goal you set when you were 5. But I will tell you, it is surely worth the ride. Your parents still love you, and you will love yourself. But dear younger self, start loving you today. Because I'm telling you right now, you will live to see another, and it doesn't get easier with hate plagued in your heart. So from this day forward, I encourage you to start. Speaking up for yourself with honesty and respect. Protecting yourself like your life depends on it, because it truly does. Forgiving yourself for your yesterday, my today, and our tomorrow. Loving yourself for everything you are, and even more for everything you're not. And when the rain falls with questions of what if, know that those will dry too. But lastly, I want to say good job and I love you.
Right? That's so good.
Thank you again, Miss Val and Katelyn. You are both incredible. Thank you so much for that. And thank you to everybody for joining us here today, day 2 of the 4th Annual Women's Empowerment Symposium. I am feeling so incredibly grateful and inspired after talking to all of these incredible women today. So we've learned from some amazing female leaders, and we hope that you are leaving feeling inspired and empowered as well. So please be sure to join us again tomorrow, day 3 of the Women's Empowerment Symposium. And be sure to stay in touch with the Rose Bowl Institute as well, rosebowlinstitute.org, where you can follow along, get more information. Thank you guys so much. Have a great evening.